Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to this series of reviews on the Friday the 13th movies. Just coming off of reviewing the first movie, so why not talk about Friday the 13th Part 2, which was released a year later in 1981. Directed by Steve Miner. I believe it's Steve Miner. Yeah, directed by Steve Miner. And the first one was by Sean S. Cunningham. Now, the director Steve Miner, I'm a fan of his as a director. Like, he did Part 2 and Part 3. I think he also did Lake Placid as well. But then, of course, he went on to direct the really crappy remake of Day of the Dead, which for some reason he doesn't want to talk about Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3, but he can do like a commentary on the Day of the Dead remake. Just go figure on that one. But Friday the 13th Part 2 was released in '81, a year later, and basically, the story, picks up right after where the first movie left off at, where basically in the beginning you have Adrienne King's character Alice gets killed in the beginning and things like that. But then it follows. It takes place 5 years after the events of the first movie, and basically, there's a new group of camp counselors. You have John Fury as Paul. You have Amy Steele as Ginny. You have Lauren Marie Taylor as Vicky, and things like that. You have a guy in a wheelchair and things like that. But basically, it's from there these camp counselors are getting picked off one by one by this killer. And of course, this time it's Jason. This time, instead of Mrs. Voorhees, it's Jason. They don't have a. Well, it's actually on the picture of the disc, right there. This is the one where Jason has the burlap sack on his head. This is before the hockey mask in Part 3. But Friday the 13th Part 2. Really great installment into the franchise. I think it's a really solid sequel. It's one of my favorite sequels of the franchise. It's one of my favorite films, period, of the franchise. Because I probably say, out of all the Jason films, I probably say Amy Steele as Ginny is my favorite female lead of the series. She's up there. I mean, Adrienne King's number 2 for me as Alice. Also really enjoy Lark Park Lincoln from Part 7. Trying to think who else. Kimberly Beck, who was Trish in Part 4. I mean, she's definitely up there with some of the female leads of the Jason films. She's definitely my number 1 favorite female lead. I really like her character of Ginny. I really like John Fury as Paul. Especially when he's talking throughout the campfire, telling the story and things like that. I just like the way John Fury plays the character of Paul. I think he does a really great job. And of course, just like this one too, has really great death scenes. Especially, I feel sorry for the one guy in the wheelchair, where he's sitting in the wheelchair. He's just looking around, and then he gets the axe in the head, and then he falls. His wheelchair just rolls down these steps and things like that. I feel sorry for the guy, but it's one of those deaths where it was oh shoot, didn't see that one coming. And of course, you have the one guy being hung upside down by his foot. He gets caught in one of those rope things where it shoots you up in a tree, and then you get hung upside down by your feet, and he gets killed by Jason in that one. But I mean, just another really great installment into the franchise. And I think Steve Miner did a great job directing this as well. And apparently it doesn't look like Sean S. Cunningham had any involvement in the second one. But also I forgot to mention, too, in the original film, just like with Part 2, really do enjoy the musical score by Harry Manfredini. Really great musical score. Once again, and I can't believe I forgot to mention in the original film, Walt Gorney, and he's in this film too. Walt Gorney, Crazy Ralph. He's got a death curse. You're doomed. You're all doomed. I can't believe I forgot to mention him in my original review of the first movie. God, I can't believe I forgot to mention Crazy Ralph. But I'll be mentioning him here. I'll be saying him for both these films because he's in the first two movies. And of course, you know, Walt Gorney's Crazy Ralph gets killed. Of course, gets coming from around the tree and strangles him on the tree. And like I said, I like the Walt Gorney as Crazy Ralph. Sad that he's no longer with us anymore. I mean, I kind of wish Walt Gorney was still alive so that he can do conventions. You know, because Crazy Ralph is just one of those iconic characters from this series. And even though he was only in the first two movies, it's still a really great, iconic character. And, you know, especially in the beginning when he's warning two of the new counselors. One of them is Jeff and another girl. And you're doomed. You're all doomed. And things like that. And I really like Jason in this. This is where Steve Dash, the late great Steve Dash, may he rest in peace, just passed away not that long ago, played Jason in Part 2. Now, Ari Lehman played the kid Jason in the original. Now there's a funny story with this, with the character of Jason, because there was two guys that played Jason. Like, apparently behind the scenes, Steve Dash was injured during, like, the ending of the shooting or something like that, so then they had to get someone else to, like, take his place for a little bit. So basically, when at the very end, when Ginny sees the dog come in, Jason crashes through the window with the mask, with the sack off his face. You can see, like, the long hair and his face. That's actually Warrington Gillette, who was in that scene. It wasn't Steve Dash. Steve Dash played Jason when he had the burlap sack on, and things like that. So there's, like, technically two people that played Jason in this movie. But mainly Steve Dash played Jason for the most part in this movie. And I think Steve Dash did a great job at playing Jason. And of course I love this scene here too, when Ginny finds Mrs. Voorhees' head. She, like, puts on the sweater, and she's acting like Jason's mother, and things like that. Really great scene in that one, too. And overall, I mean, Part 2 is just a really great installment into the franchise. I mean, I really like the cast, like Amy Steele, John Fury, Lauren Marie Taylor, Steve Dash. You know, just Amy Steele's character as Ginny is just is my favorite female lead of the Jason films. Really great kills, a lot of really pretty good gore, really great musical score, and of course can't forget, you know, Walt Gorney, you know, Crazy Ralph himself. And overall, I mean, Friday the 13th Part 2, really great installment into the franchise. So, easily a great installment into the series. So, anyways, that is pretty much it for my review for Friday the 13th Part 2, and stay tuned, actually, for the next review. So now we are done with Part 1 and Part 2. Next review will be on this. We'll be on Part 3. So, I will see you guys then, and you guys take care.